What's going on YouTube? It's Tej, back again with another video, and today I'm coming at you with my final 2024 NFL mock draft. Man, I'm excited to bring this your way. I'm trying to go predictive here, but also, obviously this is how I kind of see how it could play things out, so there is a little bit of bias, but I'm going to try to predict the pick here, and I'm kind of between two different scenarios here. We'll talk more about that specifically when we get to pick 3, but excited to bring this mock your way. Real quick before we get started, we just passed 4,000 subs, so really appreciate everyone who hit the subscribe button throughout this draft cycle. Really means the world that you would want to stop and come back to my channel frequently as I'm posting mocks week in and week out. And even if you didn't subscribe, if you liked, if you dropped a comment, or if you were just a regular repeat viewer, I really appreciate it. This was obviously the biggest year for my channel. And man, I'm really excited. Post-draft, I got some content planned, and then we're going to start getting into the 2025 draft stuff really early on. So real quick, one other final note. Thursday night, first round, we're going to be posting YouTube shorts, giving out quick, succinct grades for each and every pick. So, it's not going to be one big video after the draft. It's just going to be different YouTube shorts. So definitely stick around the channel for some quick thoughts there. And then Friday morning, I plan on having it up by noon. I will be doing a day 2 mock draft. So I will take everything that happened on Thursday and then run through a second and third round mock draft, basically, based off who's off the board, who's available, what needs are still remaining for teams. So be on the lookout for those shorts, and then a day 2 mock draft on Friday. But without further ado, we know why you're here. I know why you're here. Let's jump into this, starting with the number 1 overall pick. Suspense builds. It's going to be Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, the number 1 overall pick. Don't think we need to talk about this. We got 99 picks to get through, so let's save time where we can. I think it's going to be Jane Daniels at 2. I know he wants to be a Raider and be with Antonio Pierce. That's awesome. We all have wants in our lives, but sometimes, you do what you got to do for a job, And hey, I'd rather go number 2 overall and get that paycheck than 13. And ultimately, I'd see a lot of the Cliff Kingsbury offense being a really good fit for Jane Daniels. Drake May's my QB2. I'd personally go there. But if they think Daniels is a fit and also like his rushing ability kind of hides that offensive line, I think there's enough here to where I understand where Washington's coming from. Also, for a new owner, it's really easy to sell the headline of former or reigning Heisman winner becomes number 2 overall pick. Like that's a pretty easy sell, but it's a really good quarterback class. I'm not knocking anything that Washington does here. Personally, I'd go May, but I know there's a lot of smart people who have Daniels at QB too. So Commander fans, voice off what you think you would do at number 2. Then we get to number 3, and like I said, I have 2 legitimate scenarios on this piece of paper with my mock draft in it. And it came down to what I want to do here at 3. 2 very different mock drafts, by the way. So somewhere, the other one can go out in the ether, and it's like a director's cut. It's like my Zack Snyder cut on the other side of that piece of paper. But I am going to have New England trade down, and real quick before I have this go through, ultimately, this is going to come down to who's making this decision. If it's Robert Kraft, I think they'll stick and pick, even if it's like May, who comes with some bumps, McCarthy, who I think needs a year. If it's Daniels, I think they're definitely taking this pick. But with Daniels off the board, if it's Elliott Wolf and Jonathan Kraft, I have a hard time thinking they don't look at what Monty Austinforth hauled out of last year's draft by manipulating and moving up and down the board, and how well they're set up this year. Like, everyone's talking about, man, Arizona, man, they're going to come away with a haul. I got 6 picks in the top 100. I have a hard time thinking Elliott Wolf specifically is not looking at that and saying, man, we get a bag here for the number 3 overall pick. So I'm going to have them trade out, get 11-23, a future first. It'd probably be more in there, but we're just kind of dealing with 11 to 23 in today's video. I'm not doing a 2025 future mock in this, so that's going to be the trade. Vikings get their guy. I think they'd like McCarthy, but I think Drake May has been their dude. If they can't get Caleb Williams, I think they see Drake May similar to how I see him, how others see it, where I think there's 2 quarterbacks in tier 1. I think this is a Herbert Burrow type of situation where there's 2 legit dudes in this quarterback class. And I think the Vikings feel similarly. And I think if they get Drake May, he is to me, the best guy, attack the middle of the field. That's what KOC wants to attack. He steps into a situation with his old high school quarterback coach, there and Josh McCown. KOC gets to work with them. Great receivers, great pass catchers if you want to extend it to T.J. Hawkinson. Really nice tackle situation. I think this is a good place for Drake May to go. You don't have to play in week 1, but in that scheme, I'd say you start him over Sam Darnold. Anyways, let me get to number 4 here, and this is another tough one. Marvin Harrison Jr. apparently only had 2 top 30 visits, one with Chicago, one with Arizona. So in a lot of ways, this could definitely be Marvin Harrison Jr. is the pick, but I am going to have Arizona trade out. This is one where, the reason I decided to put this video out on Tuesday was because if I waited until Wednesday, I would just overthink the hell out of this. And this is one of those picks where I'm like, dude, I just don't know. But I think, one, the Giants are trading up to get a quarterback, but two, they're boxing out Denver from potentially trading up and getting a guy. Because honestly, I know it's the Chargers, the Broncos, division rivals, but the Chargers need extra picks. They might be willing to give Denver a QB of the future, or Arizona might be here at 4. So, one, I think this is the Giants getting a future franchise quarterback, but also it's them boxing out every other team who might want to move up to this pick and get J.J. McCarthy. And I feel like J.J.'s going to be their guy, man. And I know there's like a $22 million dead cap hit for Daniel Jones next year, but like you're still saving about $20 million by cutting him. Or in a perfect world, Brian Dable boosts his stock, and then some QB needy team next year is like, hey, we can get Daniel Jones for a third or whatever. Yeah, let's do it. And then you can ship him off and then have J.J. McCarthy take over. But I'm kind of iffy on quarterbacks going 1, 2, 3, 4 like I have here. So that's another reason where I'm like, I don't know. The Giants might be able to stick and pick and take them at 6, but there's a lot of quarterback desperate teams out there that might move up to 4 and give Arizona a bag. I also think Arizona might prefer to stay somewhere in the top 6 to get a player that I'm going to give them. Anyways, we'll come back to that in 1 second. I'm going to have Marvin Harrison Jr. be the pick here. I know the Chargers want to move back. They probably will move back a few different times. But here, I think with quarterbacks going 1, 2, 3, 4, you get the best position player in this class. I think that's a hard one to pass up. If this still plays out, quarterbacks 1, 2, 3, 4, don't be surprised if it's Joe Alt. I know there's teams that view Alt as like top tier, bona fide, blue chip prospect on the same level as Marvin Harrison Jr., which for some people you're like, what? For some people, that's just how they see it. So I still wouldn't rule out Alt. We could have quarterbacks 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a left tackle. Like that would be, or a tackle because they'll probably swing to the right side. But wouldn't shock me. But I think they're going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. The only reason that Ohio State was even in the game this year with Michigan was because of Maserati Marv. And then we get to 6. I'm going to have the league neighbors be the pick. They just don't have a guy with like top end speed, right? Like they don't have that guy who can take it to another gear. So I actually think in a lot of ways, trading back, you get another top 100 pick. Now you got 7 picks in the top 90 or whatever. That's ridiculous. And you get a clear-cut number 1 wide receiver. He'd be a number 1 wideout in just about any other class except for the Jamar Chase class of 2021. And you also get that big play guy, the speed that you're kind of missing in that receiver room. I liked Michael Wilson a ton last year. He could be your axe. He could be your possession guy. You get one more receiver in the mix that we're going to add later on in this draft, and all of a sudden, that trio feels like it really comes together very nicely. So I was kind of back and forth between the trade up for the Giants, but I think they're going to want to box out some teams that might want a quarterback, get their guy in the future, and they kind of have a situation where they're ready-made to sit J.J. McCarthy, and then Arizona gets to stay in the top 6 to get an extra top 100 asset, and they still get, any other year, a wide receiver 1. So that was ultimately my selling point why I decided to stick with that trade up from the Giants. Then we get to the Titans, easy one here, Joe Alt. I mean, they need a left tackle bad. If one of the receivers is here, like Roma Dunze is really tempting for me. Have him sit behind DeAndre Hopkins for a year. Him plus Calvin Ridley long-term compliments for Will Levis. Like I'd like that a ton. And then Kingsley Suamataia maybe early second. But I think they're going to go safe here. And if Alt's available, I think that's their guy, right? And then him and Peter Skoronski on the left side of the O-line, that could be crazy. Don't rule out the shot, though, that gives Skoronski a chance to start at tackle. Like, I don't think that's impossible either. Maybe they'd have to flip him over to the right side to do that. But if Callahan thinks that he can, like, I don't think that's a bad call either. And then you just kind of patch up the interior. But nonetheless, let's just say it's Skoro at left guard, Alt at left tackle. That's awesome. Like, and that's a huge step in the right direction for this team, repairing what's been the worst offensive line coming out of last season. Then the Atlanta Falcons. Man, I was really close between Quinyon and Dallas Turner here. I almost threw y'all a curveball here and went Cooper DeJean. There's always a pick in the top 10 that people are like, whoa, okay. Didn't see that guy as who they were going to go after. So I thought about Cooper DeJean, a lot of zone experience at Iowa, high-end athlete. Maybe Raheem Morris would want to buy into that. I still think Quinyon Mitchell would be a hell of a fit, but this team needs a dude on the edge. I don't know if Turner's going to be superstar year 1, but by year 3, he's got a good shot. Like a lot of athleticism there. He's already taken steps in the right direction, adding inside counters, adding weight. He's done the necessary work to improve his draft status. Also, I mean, Raheem Morris is the guy who would drop Michael Hoyt into coverage a ton for the Rams. And Michael Hoyt is not someone who should be dropping into coverage. So I think Turner's movement skills and athleticism in general plays a little bit more for that. So I decided to flip back. Man, if this is Quinyon Mitchell, I'm going to be kicking myself on Thursday. But I'm going to go with Dallas Turner instead of Quinyon here. But I like both. And honestly, my preferred thing or haul here for the Falcons would be Quinyon and then Chris Braswell in the second round versus what I'm going to end up giving them. Just my opinion. And I have same feeling here for the Bears. What I'm going to end up doing is not what I would personally do. But I'm going to have them take Roma Dunze here. And it's nothing against Rome Odunze. Trust me, Rome Odunze should be going in the top 10. If I'm the Bears, I would just trade back a spot with the Jets. I know the Jets would be willing to give up one of their fourths for Rome Odunze. I had a hard time thinking they wouldn't. And they get a great receiver, and then I would take Byron Murphy at 10. We'll come back to that later on. But here, now you're giving Caleb Williams one of the elite trios in the NFL. Like, you got to stop and think about who's got a better trio than this. Keenan, Rome, DJ Moore, that's crazy. And then, no matter how long Keenan's around, Rome and DJ Moore are a great complement for one another. So I love that a ton. And fitting into that Shane Waldron offense, like Rome Odunze definitely could play that DK Metcalf role, which that's what excites me about this pick. So in a lot of ways, I think I would do something different for the Bears, but if they make the pick Rome Odunze, it's going to get an 8 grade for me, So they just have a lot of options here at 9, which is a great place to be if you're a Bears fan. Then we get to the Jets. I've been saying it was something I wanted to do for a while, and I do think this is going to be the pick. As much as I love the idea of Bowers there, and he's just a different rookie than what Rodgers has previously worked with. He's a different tight end than Rodgers has worked with. John Simpson's making $6 million this year. I guess you could call that starter money, but it's also like high-end backup gap, fill in a gap kind of money. So John Simpson could just be their, Swiss Army knife interior offensive lineman, just have him start in a pinch. And Troy Fautanu could be the starter by week 1. And in a lot of ways, I think he would be. And also, we got to know Tyron Smith has not played a full season of football since 2015. That's almost a decade ago, folks. That's crazy. So, if that trend continues, there's going to be a game where you need a left tackle, and Troy Fautanu then steps right in. So I'd love to give him a pass catcher. Trust me, I would. But at the same time, offensive line's got to be the focus here. And I do have something I wanted to talk about with receiver later on. So we're going to talk about in the third round. I don't know if the trade summoner is going to let me do it, because every time I tried to practice this mock, it wouldn't. But I want to talk about it once we get there. So I'll make note when we go back to the Jets. And we'll actually won't be talking about the Jets later on. But I'll mention it. Their next pick at 72. Sorry. Let's get to the New England Patriots here at pick number 11. I'm going to have the pick be Brian Thomas Jr. Won't be the last receiver we take either. Field stretcher, big size. Tyquan Thornton, I don't think, can legitimately play receiver. Thomas gives you that high-end speed while actually being a functional receiver. Also, yak ability. I think clear-cut, number 1 guy on that roster. And also a nice compliment for Pop Douglas working the slot, Juju Smith-Schuster with whatever production they get out of him. So, he's just a different skill set than what they currently have. And, a couple months ago, I was like, dude, if the top 3 guys are all off the board by 9, wouldn't floor me if the Bears made that the pick. Brian Thomas Jr. at 9. I think they'd try to trade back, but just generally speaking, a couple months ago, in a vacuum, it wouldn't shock me. So I don't think 11's too rich either. It's a great receiver class. These guys are going to go off the board, especially the top 3, I think, are gone by the top 10. And the top 5 guys are all gone pretty quick, I think, in my opinion. Anyways, let's move on to the Denver Broncos then here. At pick number 12, it's going to be Bo Nix. This has been my pick, 90% of this draft cycle. There's so much about Bo Nix that screams Sean Payton. The underneath accuracy, the processing, plus enough mobility to kind of give him a blend of Drew Brees and Taysom Hill, which, I know one of those guys is a Hall of Famer, so that's high praise. But I think Bo Nix could be the right system fit here for Sean Payton. And considering they're paying so much money to Russell Wilson, Payton needs a cheap quarterback, and Bo Nix will be a functioning one for the next 4, including the 5th-year option, 5 years for the Denver Broncos. We get to the Raiders, and this has typically been Talise Fuaga. And personally, if you're going off my rankings, that's what it would be. I'm going to go with Amarius Mims. I think Mims ends up being kind of a little bit of a shock pick for general consensus people who are like, whoa, who's that guy? They're going to be like, did he play? Oh, what? I don't know a whole lot about him. Like your average Joes, your people who aren't watching videos like this. They're going to be like, whoa, what's that? But, dude, high-end ability, great fit for Luke Getsy's scheme. And, dude, an absolute mover of people, kind of fits that Raider mindset. And I also think the arm length for Fuaga could be a bit of an issue. Maybe push him down the board just a little bit. So this may be a little surprising for some, but I think Antonio Pierce is going to go for the upside play. Amarius Mims plus Colton Miller. If Mims stays healthy, that's one hell of a tackle tandem for the future. To the New Orleans Saints, I'm going to go Olu Fashanu here. I've been concerned about the hand size. I feel like you see it on tape too. He just doesn't have any grip strength because he has no grip. He can't get a hold of guys. He can't latch onto them, specifically in the run game. So I think he needs to go to a zone scheme blocking wise, and specifically a wide zone scheme where he can just kind of move in a direction, kind of shepherd or herd a defender into space and create a running lane there behind him. I think, with Clint Kubiak coming over from San Francisco, it was kind of his MO in Minnesota. It was his dad's MO, that wide zone scheme. I think this is one of the best places where Fashanu can go. not be a total liability in the run game, while also like Derek Carr was under pressure a ton last year. So you go get the best pass protector of the tackles this year, other than maybe Joe Alt. I think that's a win. So it makes Carr better, but also I think this is one of the schemes that actually fits Fashanu really well from that run game perspective that everyone's worried about. To the Indianapolis Colts, man, I am pumped about this Colts draft. I got Brock Bowers here in the first, and I got another one of my favorite fits in the draft coming to him in the second round. But clear upgrade over all the tight ends they have. I think he'll be just fine as a blocker. Another really interesting body type to tackle, right? Like you're dealing with the Colts, and you're already saying, man, I got to deal with Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson. Now you have to deal with Brock Bowers' yards after the catch ability over the middle of the field. I don't want any part of it. So I just think it's a clear receiving upgrade. It's one more weapon for year 2 of Anthony Richardson, but it's also just a different type of guy to bring down. And always want to have this diverse portfolio of tough guys to tackle, right? Like I just want to make a defense deal with so many different types of talent and different types of ball carriers. And I think Bowers brings that to the table for the Indianapolis Colts. Seattle Seahawks, I thought about having them trade back, but honestly, it takes 2 to tango. And frankly, I don't know who would be moving up here. There's just so much good offensive talent that if you're a contender looking for a good defensive player, you can sit in the 20s and one's going to come to you because there's so much good offensive talent going early. So maybe we'll see how the board shakes out in the top, 10 to 15 picks, and I'm wrong here, and they do decide to trade out of this pick. Maybe like a team like Philadelphia moves up. Been seeing that a lot, but I think Seattle is just going to stick a pick. Jackson Powers-Johnson. Look, Laken Tomlinson, they brought him in, but he wasn't good the last contract he signed, right? So who knows? Oluwatimi might be a better player, and they want to play Jackson Powers-Johnson at guard because of that. Or Oluwatimi might not be good. He was a day 3 pick, even though I liked him last year. He was a day 3 pick after all, and you just play Jackson Powers-Johnson at center. Either way you spin it, there's a pathway for JPJ to get on the field and be an upgrade somewhere for that Seattle interior offensive line. Jacksonville Jaguars are up next, and I'm going to go Quinyon Mitchell here. I think it's a fantastic scheme fit. I thought about Terrion Arnold just to get him a guy who can play in the slot, but I also don't hate the idea of Mitchell playing a little bit of nickel this year. I'll be honest, ton of physicality, willing tackler. I'm fine with that too. But let's just say in this case, they're going to play him primarily on the outside, competing with Ronald Darby, and they'll kind of rotate around who's going to play in the nickel, whether it's Antonio Johnson, Darnell Savage, so on and so forth. But I think a nice long-term piece. Darby, coming off a nice year, but how many more years does he have? We don't know. So I like the investment here in Quinyon Mitchell, especially with Ryan Nielsen coming over. I feel like he's a really nice fit for what Nielsen did in Atlanta last year and what Nielsen was doing beforehand with the Saints. Or what the Saints did previously. Nielsen was just, kind of in the mix there. Wasn't the DC. Then we get to the Cincinnati Bengals here at pick number 18. I'm going to go Byron Murphy, my top defensive player in this class. And obviously you lose DJ Reader. Byron Murphy can legitimately play nose tackle. There were reps in Texas where he was playing nose, and Tavondre Sweat at this 360-pound monster is playing 3-tech. It's a little backwards, but Murphy's just that level of a dude, in my opinion. So I think you could play him pretty much anywhere across this defensive line, get some pass rush juice, high-end run defender, big Byron Murphy guy, and obviously a step in the right direction to replacing DJ Reader. Next up, the Los Angeles Rams, Leatu Latu. They're a team that focuses on in-game athleticism a ton, and if you buy into the PFF NFL podcast, and they've said with their PFF Ultimate tool that his in-game athleticism score, or they call it GAS, Latu's right up there with Dallas Turner. And if that's the case, with his production, being a local guy, I don't think the Rams overthink this. I don't think they think twice about this. If Leatu Latu's there, I'm pretty confident he's going to be their pick, right? And losing Aaron Donald, you're not going to draft a guy that's going to do that. One, Byron Murphy's off the board, and I like Johnny Newton, but neither one of those guys is going to be Aaron Donald. As much as I like them both, and they're tier 1 interior defensive linemen for me, they're not Aaron Donald. Honestly, I think the quickest way to replacing that lost production from Aaron Donald through an aggregate is with Leatu Latu playing edge, and then you're going to need other pieces to step up in production. But I think the quickest way to replacing that production is Latu at the edge. Then we get to the Pittsburgh Steelers here at 20, and I'm going to go Talise Fuaga. I think it was John Ledyard who had kind of noted that Fuaga's measurements actually match up a lot with Jake Matthews. Yeah, I think Jake Matthews is the guy I was talking about, but one of the tackles there in Atlanta. And if that's the case, then I could totally see this. But I really just look at this as he falls into their lap. They're looking for a right tackle. Get Broderick Jones over. He's a really good zone blocking guy. So I think he fits schematically. So I don't want to weigh too much of the Arthur Smith and the tackles he's had there. He's the OC. Ultimately, I don't know how much say he really has. But they want to flip Broderick Jones over to the left tackle. I believe that. So Fuaga falls into the lap. Experience in zone blocking. Mean guy. Wants to put people in the dirt. Mauler in the running. All those cliches you hear. That's true. I think a functional pass protector at the NFL level. So I think this gives pretty much Pittsburgh the tackle situation that they're looking for long term. Miami here at 21, but same old me. I'm going to have them trade out of this pick. They just need more draft capital. You can't pick at 21.55 and then not again until 155 or 158. Not with the holes that they have on their roster. So Washington slides into the first round. Jared Verse comes off the board. This is maybe a guy they want to target. Like, I could totally see Washington really liking Verse, straight line, linear, explosive, power rusher. Not a whole lot of bend or anything like that, but just more so like speed to power, and going through the chest of an offensive tackle. So kind of an old school power rusher, but team obviously made a lot of moves at edge at the trade deadline, looking to replenish that talent. Verse to me makes a lot of sense. If they go Drake May at 2 or JJ McCarthy at 2, then maybe they're trading back into the first round for a tackle. I've been doing that a lot. But in mocks where I have Jaden Daniels go to, I tend to make them trade in to go edge instead. But we are going to go tackle a little later on, if my memory serves. Then we get to the Philadelphia Eagles here at 22. I'm going to go Cooper DeJean. It could be Arnold for sure, and you're playing him a little bit in the nickel, but you got Gardner-Johnson back, so I'm not too pressed about finding that nickel player here. Let's go Cooper DeJean. You can play him at safety, you can play him at outside corner, 4.42, 40. Like, this team just needs to get faster, so you could go with DeJean or Wiggins, but Wiggins in that weight kind of scares me off, so I'd lean in the direction of DeJean. And look, James Bradbury is not going to get any more athletic this year or years beyond, so I think this is kind of an opportunity to get a little bit more athletic there in the secondary, get some more speed by adding Cooper DeJean at pick 22. Then we get the New England Patriots here at 23, and I'm actually going to have them trade out of this pick as well. I'm going to be really patient. In a lot of ways, you could tell me they're going to take Michael Penix here, and I wouldn't doubt it. But instead, I'm going to have the Las Vegas Raiders trade into the first round once again and give up picks 44, 77, and then a future fourth. It could be a future third for all I know. But more future picks for New England, more picks this year. I don't see how you can be upset about this as a Pats fan, even if it means you're not going to get Michael Penix. But Penix is going to go to the Vegas Raiders. So they get a right tackle, they get the quarterback of the future. And everything that we hear sounds like the Raiders really like Michael Penix. Maybe that's smoke. Maybe they're just trying to boost his stock and get a team that's overzealous to trade up, and that way a player that they really like falls to them. I don't know, but everything that we hear sounds like Michael Penix is a guy that really fits with them. And hey, if Mims works, they got a solid tackle situation, couple good receivers. It's a situation enough to where I think Michael Penix can succeed. It's just going to come down to Luke Getsy really figuring out that passing scheme, because sometimes it was rough in Chicago. Let's get to the Dallas Cowboys next. They're going to go Grant Barton. Easy one here. You just plug him in at left guard or center. It just comes down to who would you rather start. TJ Bass at left guard or Jason Hoffman at center. Whoever sucks less, you'll start, and then Barton will play the other place. So center left guard flexibility, and then Tyler Smith's going to play left tackle for the foreseeable future. To the Green Bay Packers, this is where Terrion Arnold comes off the board. It sounds like it's going to be a more man-heavy scheme. I think Arnold is the best man coverage corner in this class, and especially I love him from the slot, right? Like 4.5, 140 scaring some, not worrying me, but the change of direction, the lateral movement is what jumps off the tape for me with Terrion Arnold. So you're going to play a lot of man, get this twitchy lateral movement guy in the middle of that, cornerback room. Like, I am pumped up about that. Hopefully Eric Stokes bounces back. Jair Alexander can hopefully play a full season. Arnold there in the nickel. That's a really fun secondary. And then job's gonna get easy there on the front on the pass rush side, because those guys are gonna shut down dudes. Let's get on to Tampa Bay here at 26. I'm gonna go Kool-Aid McKinstry. He really strikes me as like a Todd Bowles type. Like, got the size, good enough athlete, wants to get in, receivers' faces, good man press guy, one of the best man press corners of this group. So a lot of this is screaming Todd Bowles to me. So I think he's going to pull the trigger here at 26, especially given that they moved on from Carlton Davis. Arizona Cardinals are up next. Easy one here. Johnny Newton is too good of a player for me to get out of the first round. So for a team that desperately needs interior defensive line talent, and Newton, one of the best in this class, clear tier 1 guy right there with Byron Murphy for me, falls in your lap at 27. You don't overthink this one. Especially with Jonathan Gannon coming from Philadelphia, the emphasis they had on defensive line. Hopefully that's rubbed off on him, and hopefully they get a guy that could have that type of impact to the middle of that D-line. All right, Buffalo's up next. This is going to be A.D. Mitchell. So he fell a little bit more in this, and it might take a trade up from Buffalo, but with the effort stuff that's come up, I can see where AD lingers on the board just a little long enough, for Buffalo to be able to take him at 28. But, if he doesn't go here, I don't see him get past Baltimore 30, because that would be a scary fit right there. That'd be, as a Steelers fan, I'd be terrified of that. But nevertheless, this team needs a clear-cut number 1 guy of the future. They're losing, big play, long speed downfield threat with Gabe Davis, and I think Mitchell feels in there both with his size, but also 4.35 40 times. So I'm a little anxious about making him wide receiver 1 day 1. I'd really like Mitchell to step into a spot where he could be receiver 2 and eventually receiver 1. But it is what it is. And the Bills have made a tough bed to sleep in by moving on from Diggs and Gabe Davis. So hopefully A.D. Mitchell lives up to the hype and his ceiling and gets the Bills back in that Super Bowl contention window. All right, then we get to the Detroit Lions at 29. This is when Nate Wiggins come off the board. I know he's a little light, so is he like a kneecap guy? Is he, all that stuff? I don't know, but the dude hustles. I throw this out all the time. The Maurian Hampton fumble, that type of effort, that's something I think would fire up Dan Campbell. So I don't know if he's physically like a Dan Campbell dude, but that motor definitely would get Dan Campbell fired up, in my opinion. But also they could use a little bit more speed in that secondary. He's got more size than some of the guys they currently have. And I think this year, you're talking about Wiggins, Carlton Davis on the outside, good size corners, a ton of long speed with Wiggins. It's just going to come down to, what's that playing weight? So that scared me off a little bit from Wiggins. But I still think he should go in the first round because he's got experience playing man, zone, press, off. He checks so many other boxes. It just comes down to, can we get you to 185? Because if so, then I think you're definitely a first-round guy, and you'll have a pretty long career. But if he's playing at 175, that's where I get a little nervous. But still like the idea of him and Davis as that corner tandem in Detroit. Baltimore's next up. I'm going to give him J.C. Latham, man. He just feels like one of the guys that, I know he's one of the more polarizing guys. I feel like him, Troy Franklin, there's a couple dudes that people are kind of iffy on, and, some people love him, some people don't. But Latham is, if he goes to Baltimore, it's just damn, there he goes. Now he's going to be a stud. You just know it. So, also a big-time hole at right tackle. Also, maybe if there's a world where Latham is truly better at guard, you play Patrick McCarry, then at tackle, and Latham becomes your starting right guard, and that's one of the starting offensive line positions you got to fill. They lost 3 of their 5 starters this offseason, so they got a lot of work to do on the O-line. I think here you just play Latham at right tackle. All right, next up, San Francisco. I think it's going to be Chop Robinson. If Chop Robinson makes it there, I think they're going to be dude, we can get this type of freaky athlete with our defensive line coach and have him work with Nick Bosa every day. Yeah, we're all about it. So it's definitely a little bit of a future pick because I know this team, they got guys Leonard Floyd's going to probably play more snaps year 1 than him, but by year 2, you could be talking about a tandem of Nick Bosa and Chop Robinson, which, if Chop develops as a pass rusher, look out to the rest of the league. That could be absolutely frightening. Also, we're going to be able to get them some offensive line help a little bit later on in the mock. So then we get to Kansas City here at 32. I'm going to go Jordan Morgan. I actually don't know if I've had a mock where the Chiefs take Jordan Morgan there at 32, but need a starting left tackle. The arms are 1/8 of an inch short for my threshold, so I'm going to let it pass here and say, the Chiefs basically get their Rashawn Slater guy with a little bit, Slater's arms I think were right at 33 inches, but, it's kind of the cutoff right there. So it's kind of that uncomfy zone, but Slater's movement skills were so good and so technically sound, and you just couldn't get around him, so it didn't really matter, again, because of his mirroring ability and footwork. So I think Morgan's got enough of that in his own repertoire to where hopefully it's not a major concern. Also, you get Patrick Mahomes taking deep drops, so I feel like you kind of want to prioritize his movement skills and the ability to work out in space because the pocket gets a little bit deeper because of Mahomes versus your standard quarterback. Anyways, let's move on to the second round now, starting with the Carolina Panthers at 33. We'll take Zach Frazier. I think there's a few teams that could snipe him between 33 and 39, so I just wouldn't give teams the chance to do that. They need a clear upgraded center. I don't want to see Austin Corbett play that position, so let's go with the former wrestler, Zach Frazier. Then at 34, maybe surprises some people here, but I like Kingsley Suamataia higher or more than Tyler Guyton. He was higher in my position rankings. But of those 2 project tackles, give me the guy who's played both left and right tackle and has 2 years of starting experience. So Suamataia becomes the starting left tackle in New England, and maybe they can get Dante Scarnecchia to come out of retirement and be a little bit of advisor. If they can, his coaching ability with the upside of Suamataia, easy sell there for me. Tyler Guyton's going to be the pick here at 35. I know there's a lot of Cardinals fans who are like, John Williams is capable at tackle. No, he's not. He's not good. Just I don't know what you're watching, but after his rookie year, he has not been good. His best position is guard, 100%. I think the best thing that Jonah Williams can do for his career is play left guard. And if he doesn't want to do that, then I think you think about trading him, or, Tyler Guyton only played 1 year of college. He might need 2 years before he's ready to start. And if that's the case, then cool. Williams starts for 2 years. Guyton becomes your starter by year 3. And that's fine. And I think there's so much upside with Guyton plus Paris Johnson Jr., my OT1 last year. I love the upside that could bring. And obviously, Jonathan Gannon coming from Philly, prioritizing the trenches and having good tackles, all that's kind of there. I see this a lot. And really, in a perfect world, Guyton could start pretty soon. Williams moves inside to guard and fills in at that left guard spot. That definitely could be improved upon as well. But I just don't think Jonah Williams is good. Sorry, Cardinals fans. I know you're feeling a little different. I think that's the Hopi I'm talking. To the Miami Dolphins, this one's a little on the nose, but I'm going to go Xavier Worthy. Fastest guy at the combine. I know, going to Miami. I know, but It's clearly something they value. And I actually had some Dolphins fans, because I've mocked this before, being like, yeah, but if you put Worthy in motion, then you're taking Tyreek out of motion. I worry about the weight a little less with Worthy than when I've mocked Troy Franklin here. So maybe you don't need Worthy always to be the guy in motion. You could still give Tyreek that head start. But nevertheless, like, Tyreek's going to get open. So if you give Worthy the head start at 4.21 speed, that's problematic too. So it's just, they need a number 3 receiver. They're prioritizing speed. 75 catches last year at Worthy. He's been used as a primary deep threat. He's been used as a yak guy. He's been used as a volume guy at Texas. So he's done a little bit of everything. So because of that, I mean, I think there's a lot of things that Miami could ask him to do. And with these speedsters, they can't play a full snap share of like normal wide receivers do. Once you get tired, your speed, diminishes. This is all kind of common knowledge. And then if your trump card, your speed, isn't at 100%, then, well, you're not as scary of a threat, So not that, 80% of Tyreek Hill is still really fast. But nevertheless, this is a nice guy you can kind of rotate in and give Tyreek Hill that breather, give Jalen Waddle that breather, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a little on the nose, but to me, it also makes a lot of sense. Los Angeles Chargers here at 37. I'm going to go Junior Colson. I feel like I always notice when DCs get hired, like there's a new DC hire, the linebacker signing comes pretty soon after, right? Like Anthony Weaver gets hired by the Dolphins, and next thing you know, it's like, yeah, well, I need Jordan Brooks because I need a certain type of linebacker. Or Mike McDonald gets the job in Seattle. Next thing you know, like within like 24 hours, feels like Jerome Baker hired signed, and Tyrell Dodson signed. And it's like, clearly they have like a linebacker type. And with Jesse Minter going from Michigan to the Chargers, linebacker's already a big need. I could just see him being like, dude, like, there's not a linebacker going round 1. We can stick and pick here at 37. He's going to fall into our lap, and now I don't have to think about it. I know this guy can run my scheme. And I'm buying into the buzz that he's going to be the first linebacker. He's a lot of teams' LB1. I think he could definitely be the first linebacker off the board. He's not my LB1, but I can see for a lot of reasons why teams have him that high, and especially for the Chargers, right? Like, I think that makes a lot of sense. It's a little on the nose as well, but I could also see where Minter and Harbaugh are like, boom, now we just don't even need to worry about a linebacker who fits and we think he can. Colson knows how to run that scheme. All right, let me get to the Tennessee Titans. This is one I feel pretty confident about. If Darius Robinson's there, I feel like they're going to be like, that's our Danico Autry. Boom, there you go. Inside-out flexibility. And they need to get better at edge. Harold Landry last year of his extension, if my memory serves, so got to improve that anyways, or find a replacement, or at least a running mate. But also, can you imagine like third down passing situations where Darius Robinson's lined up next to Jeffrey Simmons on the interior? That's too fun to think about. That's too good of a pick to pass up if I'm the Titans. Carolina Panthers here at 39. I'm gonna go Keon Coleman. I like the gauntlet miles per hour. That for me plays. I think he'll become a better route runner at the next level. I don't think he'll become elite, but I think he'll become a serviceable route runner paired with, I think, really nice in-game speed, the hands, the vertical stuff. I think it'll all come together for him playing this Mike Evans role in this Dave Canales offense. What Evans was doing in Tampa, I think you'll see Keon Coleman do in Carolina. And it's also a receiver room that needs some size, so Keon Coleman brings that to the table. Washington here at 40. I don't know if Dan Quinn's going to continue to play a lot of man coverage like he did in Dallas. He's been kind of flexible with the scheme, kind of fit the pieces. Seattle to Atlanta to then Dallas. But if he wants to run a lot more man, he needs new horses to run that race. And Max Melton's got enough, athletic ability and man coverage skills to where he could sneak in the late first. And if he does, I got to jump into the Goat House reaction stream to see his face when that happens, because that would be must-see TV. But I think if they're looking to keep running man coverage, like Manuel Forbes, I don't know about that, Chief. I didn't really love his man coverage stuff at Mississippi State, as is. And then Benjamin St. Juste has not been very good either. So they need to overhaul that cornerback room, and I think Melton, if Dan Quinn's going to run more man coverage, is a good fit. Green Bay here, they need a starter next to Quay Walker, so let's give him Peyton Wilson, to me, the most NFL-ready guy, the best day one dude in this class. Injuries are definitely a concern, but he's been healthy the last 2 years and super productive, so I'm not going to overthink it here at 41. Houston's next up, going to stick with it. Braden Fisk. They got a couple of nice run-stopping D tackles already on the roster, so I think they have the infrastructure in place to go get a guy with, admittedly short arms, but ton of first-step juice, very explosive guy, and a ton of pass rush know-how. So in an offseason where you add Danielle Hunter, you add Derek Barnett, now you get this interior defensive line type of force. DeMeco Ryans is going to have that front four looking scary by the end of the year, and so to me, it makes a ton of sense. Then we get to Atlanta at 43. Again, my preferred haul here for the first few rounds would be like Quinyon and Chris Braswell, but at the same time, I can't hate on Dallas Turner and TJ Tampa. 4.5 speed at 6'2" with long arms, ton of zone experience at Iowa State, plugging into a primarily zone-heavy Atlanta defense. To me, it makes a ton of sense, and it's as much as I would prefer Quinyon and Braswell, I'm not knocking Dallas Turner and TJ Tampa by any stretch. And then we get the New England Patriots. Yeah, like I said, I'm gonna double dip on receiver. Like, it's a bad enough receiver core to where, and this good of a receiver class, they should take advantage of it twice in the top 50. This pick will also somewhat correspond with the next pick we're gonna take for New England. I think it's 68. But really, the thing I like about this is, like, yeah, we got Brian Thomas Jr. He's a field stretcher, and Xavier Legette is too. But they're different body types. So kind of going back to what I talked about the Colts, like, now you have to tackle Pop Douglas, who's this like jitterbug type. You got to deal with a bowling ball and Xavier Legette, and you have to deal with this 6'4", super kind of silky smooth and hard to get a whole grip on, and Brian Thomas, just because he is such a big guy and he's kind of slippery like that. So it's 3 different yards after the catch types, 3 different guys that have very different play speeds, but all can kind of push it over the top. It's just, yeah, to me, this makes this receiver room start to look, NFL functional versus what it was last year. Then, and by the way, mean receiver run inbound here. But first, we're going to have a trade. I'm going to have the New Orleans Saints trade back. They just need some more draft capital for sure. And I'm going to have the Cincinnati Bengals end the fall for a guy that I have not had fall out of the first round all that often in these mock drafts. And this is going to be a pick swap, about a 75 pick difference here between the 4th and 6th. But the Bengals are going to come up, and what better way to replace Tyler Boyd than Ladd McConkey? And he can also be an outside receiver when you live life without T. Higgins, right? If you live life without T. Higgins, he could play on the outside and be a field stretcher. Another guy that, I think the Tyler Lockett comp works well enough. I kind of like the Garrett Wilson comp a little bit more personally, but he can play inside, he can play outside, sharp route runner, long speed to threaten over the top. And it's just a pick swap of 75 picks. This is the best way you could replace Tyler Boyd. And again, I don't have a whole lot of mocks where he falls out of the first round, but my prediction ultimately is it's going to be a tackle-heavy first round, and the receivers then are going to fly off the board in the second. So I think there's just a bigger drop-off. Past those top-end tackles, then it's like, okay, I don't love these guys in the second, more so in the third. And because of that, some receivers are going to last on the board, like Ladd McConkey, like Jalen Polk. Maybe they go round 1, but here in the 40s to 50s, they're just going to start flying off the board. Anyways, I kind of teased it earlier. One of my favorite draft fits, right behind like Drake May to Minnesota, is Ricky Pearsall going to the Colts. Reuniting him with Anthony Richardson would just simply be too good, to quote my man Tim Robinson. But also, he's Alec Pierce plus. He's a field stretcher, got good speed, got good size to do all that, good hands. But also, he's got way more suddenness in and out of his break, so he's just Alec Pierce who can actually run routes. And then when you think about Alec Pierce as like the 5th pass catcher on this roster, behind Pittman, behind Bowers, behind Pearsall, behind Downs, it's like, oh, whoa, okay, Alec Pierce is their 5th pass catcher. Wait a minute. The Colts got weapons now, so I love this a ton. Yes, we're double dipping at pass catchers, but I think it's a good move for the Colts. And if you're going to keep up with Houston, these are the types of moves you're going to have to do. Then we get to the New York Giants. I'm going to go Troy Franklin here. Another guy with long speed, kind of like Jalen Hyatt. Another nice yards after the catch weapon on top of Wan'Dale Robinson. So yeah, there's some skill set overlap there. And admittedly, I'm not the world's biggest Troy Franklin guy, but I think round 2 is kind of a hard floor I have for him. And obviously, receivers are flying off the board, so in a lot of ways, I could see where the Giants are looking for that guy that has outside ability. And can he add some more mass? TBD. Can he add to that intermediate route tree for me? TBD. But if there's a guy who can do it, I think Brian Dable is one of the better guys to try to facilitate that happening. And they need one more receiver. So Troy Franklin going to be the pick there for the Giants. Then we get to the Jaguars. Another receiver off the board. It's Roman Wilson. They lose a big play, downfield threat in Calvin Ridley. They get one here in Roman Wilson, while also getting a guy who has a good bit of red zone production too, because he's a sharp route runner. And as much as size used to be the thing that people coveted for the red zone, now it's like, can you win in a small area? Can you win in, kind of short, explosive bursts? That's what you need in such a confined space. So they have that a little bit with Christian Kirk, and I think adding Roman Wilson makes it that much more of an efficient red zone offense. Then we get to the New Orleans Saints. After they trade back, I'm going to have Jalen Polk be the pick here. They have their big play guys in Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave. Now they need that guy who can work the underneath, work the intermediate, be a sure-handed guy working between the hashes. All that screams Jalen Polk. Also, this is a team that sees Chris Godwin twice a year. I have comped Jalen Polk pretty loudly to Chris Godwin, among other people who have done the same thing. But I almost wonder if they're like, dude, that's Chris Godwin. Like, yeah, let me get one of those. The Bucs have enjoyed him. Let me get my own. And I think you play him in the slot. Him, Olave, Rashid Shaheed, I am all about it. Let's get on to the Philadelphia Eagles then here at pick 50. Edgerrin Cooper going to keep being the pick here. Draft and stash. Also, I think Pittsburgh's liable to potentially take him at 51 if they get the chance. But you have him sit behind Nakobe Dean, Devin White for a year. And then hopefully by year 2, he's developed enough. And you see the athleticism, you see the long arms, and you see that downfield crashing ability, man. He could be used as an interesting blitzer too, which is kind of a fun thing to think about in this Vic Fangio defense. So maybe he does get some immediate reps as a blitzer. But I think, after Devin White basically walks next offseason, you just have Edgerrin Cooper step in his starting role. Pick 51, I'm going to give the Pittsburgh Steelers a slot corner they desperately need. Mike Samerstill. I've said poor man Stephon Witherspoon a ton. Some people have said Mike Hilton. The Steelers have been missing Mike Hilton since he left, so to me this makes a ton of sense. Just a really ferocious, tenacious guy, really good in coverage, always has his nose in and around the football, so again, kind of that Mike Hilton type that the Steelers have been missing. Next, the Rams at pick 52. I'm going to go Patrick Paul. I think Jackson might ultimately be good enough to have that starting job, but I don't want to find out that he's not. Mid-season, that's going to be rough if they do. So Patrick Paul, specifically with his pass sets and just the amount of reps that he has in true pass sets and his arm length, this screams, hey, we're a pass-happy team. Let's go get a high-end pass protector. I think Patrick Paul gives you that immediately. So I don't know if he's a great, blocker on the move, so maybe not fit that zone stuff. But we've also seen the Rams kind of adopt a little bit more gap scheme, especially, inside the red zone. So maybe this is just another step in that direction. But really, I'm looking at this as like a team that wants to pass the ball a lot, and they don't want to find out that Jackson's not good enough to start. Kind of like what happened with Joe Noteboom a year ago, right? Like they don't want to find that out the hard way. So you draft Patrick Paul here at 52 and get a clear-cut, nice pass protector for that offense. Then we get to the Eagles, another tackle off the board. And like I said, I think there's going to be a first-round run on tackles. There's going to be a little bit of a second-round one here, and then you get a pretty mean drop-off. Like, it's pretty steep after Roger Rosengarten for me. And there's other guys I like for sure, but Amagaji's going to be the pick here at 54, and then we're going to get Rosengarten here at the back half of the second round. And then it's like, do I love these guys? No, not really. But Fisher, ton of ability, ton of skill, ton of athletic ability as well, so I think a guy in the event of a Lane Johnson injury can be a more than quality spot starter, but also like having him work with the Eagles and their offensive line coach and Lane Johnson on the regular. Maybe that's what unlocks Blake Fisher from this good college player, but he should have been great at Notre Dame. And he just didn't get there. Maybe the Eagles are the spot to make that happen. Like I said, Kieran Amagaji, I think you just draft and stash him. He's got all the tools and physical ability. He plays a little high, but other than that, this guy definitely could be a high-end NFL starter. Not saying elite, but he could be a plus-level starter at left tackle. So one of the best teams at developing offensive line talents, draft and stash him for a year, and then you move on from Jedrick Wills after his 5th year. If he continues to play like he has, you're not going to want him for year 6 anyways. You don't want to give him a contract extension. But worst case scenario is like Wills has a breakout season. He gets a bag somewhere else, and congratulations. You get a comp pick in the 3rd next year, and you already have your starter taken here in the 2nd. So no matter what, it's kind of a win for the Browns. Miami Dolphins here at 55. Going to be the same. Christian Haynes. He's one hell of a Robert Hunt replacement. Love the movement skills. Ton of playing strength and a mean streak to go with it. Again, I think this is the closest path to being able to replace what you lost with Robert Hunt. Dallas Cowboys here at 56. Another pick that's going to stay the same. Jonathan Brooks. I mean, you're seeing it mocked everywhere because, the team doctor for the Cowboys did his surgery. They also have a massive need at running back. I'd personally go Corum, but I think there's enough there to link Jonathan Brooks to the Dallas Cowboys to make that the pick. I'd also be fine with Trey Benson as like a Tony Pollard replacement. So a lot of different options there at running back for the Cowboys. Pick 57, this is where I'm going to have Chris Braswell's fall stop. I think a really nice he's kind of gotten into shape in this 3-4 body. I think now he's just now kind of getting reps to learn how to get better at that 3-4 edge rush response. So putting him in another 3-4 scheme, I think basically the best years for Braswell are yet to come. Not saying he's going to be elite again, but I think he could be a really nice starter. And this is a team that Yaya Diaby, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, we're still kind of figuring out who's going to be the dude. Maybe it ends up being Chris Braswell, or he becomes a really nice rotational piece. And now you got a nice trio to kind of rotate in and keep everyone fresh. And because of that, you get some nice production out of everyone. Pick 58, Dominic Pooney. Really like him for the Packers. Can play guard, can play center too. So basically you can evaluate who's the weak link, Sean Ryan or Josh Myers. And if it's Myers, Pooney plays center. If it's Sean Ryan at right guard, you play Pooney at left guard. You flip Elton Jenkins over to play right guard. And then I'm feeling pretty good about this tackle situation or this offensive line situation. Well, let's note, if you do get into a spot where Rasheed Walker takes a step back, you could also kind of have Pooney be, a spot gap starter there at tackle and kind of get you through the season if push comes to shove. Let's get to Houston then at 59. We go Javon Bullard. I think this team could just use a little bit of an upgrade in the slot. Sometimes they use Jalen Petrie there, but I think there's a world where you play Bullard in the slot. Petrie is like a playmaking box safety, and then on top of what we've done with this defensive line, Hunter and Fisk at 42, on top of running back Derek Barnett, you have this great pass rush in place. Now you have these really interesting playmakers on the back end. I mean, all of a sudden it's looking like, that San Francisco defense has made its way to Houston just from the schematic standpoint and how these guys kind of all come together. Not literally the names, but yeah, I would love this. This type of playmaker who's also wants his nose in every single play, wants to play the run, will blow up tackles. I think he's definitely a D'Amico Ryans type of guy. We get to Buffalo here at 60. I'm going to go Ruka Rororo. Little something. I don't think I've mocked this yet, but basically, I think they can give him a full-time starting job and just split it up halfway between edge and interior defensive line. They got enough guys they can rotate in at the edge spot, and I think Ruka Rororo would just play in part of that. And then you get into passing situations. You line him up next to Ed Oliver, one guy who's super fiery and explosiveness and wins with quicks, and one guy who's going to win with size and length. Whew, that's a really fun combination. You could really get into some fun mismatches there if you're the Bills. So it's a guy that gives you a little bit of edge production, a little bit of interior defensive line production that I think they could use. I think they could kind of use a little bit more at both those spots. And Ruka Rororo is kind of a one-size-fits-all fix. Get to the Detroit Lions. I mean, this is a slam dunk. You get corner, then Marshawn Nealon at 61. Nealon could go in the first round for all we know. I like the upside. I'm more comfortable with him kind of late second to third. That's when I would take a chance on him. But for a guy that only wins with his bull rush, it's a lot of fun to watch him win with it. And there's not a whole lot of guys that are 6'3", 275 in this edge group. So kind of your old school power edge with a prototypical build. Now it's just going to come down to, can you coach him up? And they have starters right now. So they can draft and stash Nealon, and hopefully by year 2, him plus Hutchinson could be a really fun duo for the future in Detroit. Baltimore's on the clock here at 62. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go ahead and go for it. I'm going to go Trey Benson. I just think a backfield that features both Benson and Lamar Jackson, terrifying. And then a running back committee that has Benson complemented with Derrick Henry, one guy for power, one guy for pass catching and big playability. I'm all for it. I know they have... the name's escaping me. Got hurt at the end of last year. Keaton Mitchell from TCU, memory serves. I liked him a ton. Super explosive guy, but a ton of injuries under his belt too. So I just really wouldn't factor him as a part of that. And even when they've had like J.K. Dobbins, they've always had a running back committee of 3. Like every team in the AFC North that's not the Ravens. The Ravens have always prioritized having 3 backs so they can consistently use. So even if they have Keaton Mitchell available, Mitchell, Benson, Henry, that's what they ideally have. That would be easily the best running back group that's been around Lamar Jackson, which is just terrifying as, again, a Steelers fan. Then we get to the San Francisco 49ers. This is where I'm Cooper Beebe come off the board, a way better athlete than Aaron Banks, while also, I think, bringing the physicality that Shanahan wanted when they took Aaron Banks. So it's just Aaron Banks plus. Better scheme fit, more movement skills, and an awesome pass protector to keep Brock Purdy upright and hopefully then allow him to hit all these awesome targets that the 49ers have. I'm really curious to see if they move Ayuk, man. I don't think they do. I think they're going to keep their chips in the center of the table just like the Bengals and T. Higgins, but man, if there's a trade draft night, please be the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'd be so pumped. Let's get to the Kansas City Chiefs next. I'm going to go Chris Jenkins here. Just a high floor, nice run defender to put up next to Chris Jones. Let Chris Jones keep doing his thing. Let him focus on being a pass rusher. He's a good run defender, but if Jenkins can keep him clean in the run game and Jones can just pin his ears back, focus on doing what he does at an elite level, he gets that much harder to stop. Then we get to Carolina here at 65 to round out my final 3-round mock. Here's the 3rd round. Right, like I said, we're going to give Carolina a corner, one that I think could be a really interesting man press complement with J.C. Horn, who also has a ton of man press skills, but also just like those 2 guys playing in a quarters-heavy Ejiro Evero defense is a really nice fit. His athleticism, Jackson that is, athleticism plus his size makes for a really compelling fit in that defense, and they need another cornerback. So Jackson plus Horn, I think that's a solid tandem. Arizona then at 66. I'm going to go Ennis Rakestraw Jr. We haven't given him a corner yet. Inside-out flex. Maybe you play Rakestraw Jr. in the slot. You move Garrett Williams back outside. I think he's a good enough player to play on the perimeter. But you could also just have Rakestraw and just kind of like he may not be a great athlete, but just like a sure, smart, kind of high football IQ guy on the outside. I think that works too, especially in Jonathan Gannon wants to run man and he wants to run quarters off fit. Especially if you're going to play a lot of quarters, I think Ennis Rakestraw Jr. will fit just fine. And I think that could hide his 4.51, 40 time. It's not elite, but I think it's fine. But, he's also 5'11 and a half. So, it's a little different when you run 4.5 at TJ Tampa size versus Ennis Rakestraw Jr. But nevertheless, they need another corner. I think a guy who just comes with a lot of readiness, a lot of football, day one ability. And Ennis Rakestraw Jr. And for a secondary, that could use some immediate upgrades. Miami's next up at 67. I'm going to go Mason McCormick. Let's just fix these guards. Like I said, I think Christian Haynes is the closest thing you're going to find to replacing Robert Hunt, and I think Mason McCormick's a clear upgrade over Liam Eichenberg, who unfortunately, as a Notre Dame fan, has just not worked out at the next level. So Mason McCormick's the movement skills, the mean streak, all the stuff I said about Christian Haynes, I think it's applicable here for Mason McCormick. Yes, coming from a small school, but I am not worried about it. He kicked ass at his level of competition, and I think he'll translate just fine. We're also seeing South Dakota State, and North Dakota State. Their schools are becoming NFL pipelines, so I'm not worried about it really. As alluded to earlier, The pick here for New England is going to be quarterback. It's going to be Spencer Rattler. And, I think ultimately the reason I decided to go in this direction was, like, one, you can trade out of 3, do what Matthias and Forth did last year, get a ton of picks to rebuild this roster. And then you can still take a quarterback here in the 3rd round where, let's recap, basically. We traded out of 3, got 2 first this year, which we've already used, and we got a future first-round pick. We traded out of 23, got 2 more day 2 picks, including one that's not too far away here, 77, and a future 4th-round pick. So we got 2 picks for next year and way more picks this year, and we still get to take Spencer Rattler here at 68. And part of my factor for Rattler, too, was like, I'm not trying to piss anybody off when I say this, but I think Jane Daniels' velocity specifically is a little overrated. I think when people think about his arm strength, they think about the deep ball. And yeah, he can throw it far, but I don't think he has the velocity that some of the other guys have in this class. Rattler's a really natural thrower of the football that has a ton of zip on it. And when you're playing in New England, weather's going to be a factor. And I almost prefer Rattler's velo and ability to make those kind of, power throws than Daniels. But also, like, really what I'm trying to get to here is, like, Rattler here at 68, if you suck next year and he doesn't play well, there's nothing stopping you from taking a quarterback in the 1st round. And now you have a first-round pick of your own and Minnesota's, which, by the way, they're starting a rookie quarterback or Sam Darnold. They could easily be a top 12 pick again next year. So you could be talking about New England having 2 picks in the top 12 because of Minnesota and their own. And you get to see what Spencer Rattler and his upside's all about. And if it doesn't work out, cool, you got 2 picks in the top 12. Go draft a quarterback. Go use those picks to move up. So I think this is having your cake and eat it too. You build the roster, you draft a quarterback, see what's there, and if it's not good enough, you got 2 first-rounders to reevaluate the position next year. And honestly, I don't think the next year's quarterback class, it may not be elite, may not have a Caleb Williams, Drake May in it, but I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's not 2022 quarterback class, just in my opinion. We'll see when we get there. But anyways, Pats fans, let me know. Trade down, get a ton of picks, future picks as well, and take a shot on Spencer Rattler, where I think his arm will actually kind of play somewhat well in that weather, at least compared to other guys in this class. Anyways, let's get on to the Los Angeles Chargers. Think they need an upgraded slot. Kamari Lassiter, love the 3-cone numbers. Worried about the 40, so I do think he'll need to move to the inside. But ton of feel for playing and man coverage. And when Kirby Smart trusts you to start as a true freshman, there's something there. So I think you add his coverage skills to the middle of that defense. That goes a long way for Los Angeles. Back-to-back picks for the Cardinals. I'm going to go Jalen McMillan. Obviously, lost Rondale Moore. They need a slot receiver. That's going to be what Jalen McMillan does. And I think a power slot's kind of an interesting fit when this team has Kyler Murray and you're going to run a lot of read option. Having that power slot's just like a little bit of an extension of the offensive line. I like that a ton. But really now you're talking about a receiver room that has Malik Neighbors as their number 1, but field stretcher. Michael Wilson, who's going to play the X and be the possession guy, work the underneath stuff, do the boring stuff. And then Jalen McMillan fits in to play the slot. Now I'm looking at this receiver room. I'm like, yeah, they're all young, but they all have a ton of upside, and they all complement each other really, really well. So I like it a ton. I've been a big Jalen McMillan fan all year. I wish he could have played the entire year this season at Washington. Then at pick 71, this may be a little controversial for some, but I'm going to have Cedric Gray be the pick. I love his zone coverage skills. Jonathan Gannon, if he's going to play a lot of quarters, this is a dude who can cover the middle of the field with the best of them. And I think in the Senior Bowl, he showed enough run defense to where he kind of won me over. That was kind of iffy at UNC, but he showed he was a willing run defender at the Senior Bowl, and he really kind of popped for me off the screen, both watching the game and then kind of reevaluating with what footage I could find. Yeah, I think if they can get that out of him too, then he becomes a 3-down linebacker, and then it's like, okay, in a bad linebacker class to get Cedric Gray at 71, not a bad value whatsoever. New York Jets, I'm going to have Tyler Newman. He keeps falling on these mocks to 72, and I don't mean to. He really probably should go mid to late second, but it's just kind of tough. There's so much offensive talent and a lot of other players that get fallen out of the first round that, sometimes this weak safety class gets pushed down the board. But if he makes it there, I think he can compete with Tony Adams to be a day 1 starter, if not be the day 1 starter outright. The Jets have also enjoyed using 3 safety sets, so he just becomes the 3rd safety they can rotate in at the worst. But I think Tony Adams would basically become that 3rd safety. Detroit Lions, this is a fit that I continue to love. It's going to be Zach Zinter here. Have him sit behind Kevin Zeitler for a year. To me, it just makes all the sense in the world. Just a nice succession plan. Reminds me of Zeitler a ton. Great scheme fit there in Detroit. Keeping a strength to strength with that offensive line. Pick 74, I'm going to give the Atlanta Falcons Michael Hall Jr. He's bulked up a little bit, which is encouraging, and who better to have him learn from the original undersized DT, other than Aaron Donald, I guess, but Grady Jarrett, Aaron Donald, the first 2 guys that come to mind, and I guess Geno Atkins, too, so maybe not the original, but one of the best doing it at an undersized role, or at being undersized in Grady Jarrett, so Michael Hall, Grady Jarrett, like that mentor-mentee relationship. I also just think passing downs, you just rotate David Onyemata out and you plug Michael Hall Jr. in. Onyemata for rundowns, Michael Hall for pass downs. To me, it's just that simple. Chicago here at 75. I talked about this earlier, and let me just be succinct here with my thoughts earlier. Like I said, I'd prefer the Bears move back one spot. Jets take Rome Odunze. They take Byron Murphy at 10, and then they go receiver here, which could be, Jermaine Burton, which that comes with risk. It could be Javon Baker. It could be Tez Walker in a vertical base chain Waldron offense. But instead, we went Rome Odunze at 9, which I think is fine. And then here, we're going to actually go Brandon Dorless. And I actually think he could be that 3 tech that Matt Eberflus has been looking for. It makes it back-to-back years where you're kind of bargain shopping for such an important position in Eberflus's defense in the 3rd and 4th round, which I don't love. But nevertheless, I think Dorless actually could play that role and be that 3 tech that they've been looking for. You also could play him on the edge on early downs to get some upgraded run defense. At the worst, though, I think this is to Marcus Walker upgrade. So no matter what, I think there's a high floor that comes with this pick, while also maybe he is the guy that you could get in the 3rd round and be that difference maker at that 3 tech spot that Eberflus has been looking for. Denver's next up at 76. In a perfect world, Vance Joseph wants to run a lot of man coverage. Renardo Green in man coverage is fantastic, so I really like him to be that CB2 that the Denver Broncos need to upgrade. New England back on the clock here at 77. I'm going to go with Adisa Isaac. I think they could potentially use a little bit more edge help. Josh Uche's on a 1-year deal. Last year, the contract for Matt Judon. So next year, this could be a position that we're really trying to readdress for New England. I think at the minimum, this is your Josh Uche DPR replacement in a year's time. But I think Isaac could be a little bit more. But it's going to come down to how teams feel about his weight and his arm length, really. 247 was kind of a disappointing number from the combine. Arm length, like 54th percentile. Not great, but it might be good enough to play. So we'll see. But he does win in a variety of ways. So again, minimum, Josh Uche replacement next year. Upside, he could be a potential starter for this team in tandem to maybe Matt Judon being re-signed. And Uche comes in on 3rd down spots if they re-sign him, So a couple different pathways for Isaac being a solid player in New England. Next up, Washington at 78. I'm going to go JT Sanders. So I apologize earlier. I said we're going to go tackle. That's going to be one thing we omit from this. And it's a little tough thinking about starting Cornelius Lucas. Yeah, he's been a really solid swing tackle, though. So maybe he could have like a James Hurst type of season. Good enough, to get by. But I know Washington fans are looking for an upgrade there at left tackle. Sorry I couldn't make it happen. But you're also looking for a tight end in the future. So JT Sanders learning from Zach Ertz. I like that. He's a really nice athlete. Like the frame, like the route running. I like a lot about JT Sanders. Been my tight end too this whole process. Landis next up at 79. A little bit of a risky pick here. Oh man, and I might have to change this here on the fly. I don't know if I can do this. I'm going to change. I was going to go Jermaine Burton, but then I'm just thinking about it's time. Yeah, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can go Jermaine Burton there. But I don't hate it. I just think, I'm trying to think about where that fan thing happened. Maybe that was the Tennessee game, though. I might be getting my wires crossed. But I'm going to go Tez Walker, basically to play the same thing. Just have this guy run vertical routes and just hopefully eventually gets behind the defense and Kirk Cousins hits them. I also think having this guy who can be that deep over-the-top threat opens so much more for Kyle Pitts and Drake London. So whether it's Jermaine Burton, whether it's Tez Walker, I like either one of them here at 79 just to be that over-the-top threat. Burton just comes with character concerns, and I'm trying to think about, and it transferred from Georgia to Alabama. So, that might be a little bit awkward having him go to Atlanta. So, I'm going to have Tez be the pick here. I was trying to remember. I was like, I'm pretty sure he was Georgia transferred to Bama. And that is the case. Cincinnati's next up at 80. I'm going to have Roger Rosengarten be the pick here. You could have him play maybe guard right away. But you can send him behind Trent Brown for a year, and then he becomes your right tackle of the future. Trent Brown's there on a 1-year deal, so this one makes a lot of sense to me. Next up, Seattle at 81. Low moving cost. Shout out the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. Jaden Hicks, potentially the best safety in this class. One of the best testers, definitely. This team just needs to get some more safety talent back in the room after moving on from Quandre Diggs and Jamal Adams. So I like the value of Hicks there at 81. Colts on the clock at 82. Let's go Kalen Carson. I think he could be a really interesting fit in a cover 3 defense. 4.48 40s. Kind of on that fringe of does he need to be a zone guy? Can he play man? I think Carson plays with enough physicality to get by with it. But it's actually that physicality that kind of intrigues me. Him plus Juju Brents, and then Kenny Moore in the slot. I think that all could work. So I kind of like the value and the fit there. Carson, that Gus Bradley defense, and just kind of bring that physicality that I don't know does Brents really bring that? I'm not really sure. So it's just kind of a different type of corner. Then we get to the Rams at 83. I'm going to go Elijah Jones. Just kind of a high upside play here. Size, speed athlete who's coming off a year with a ton of ball production, really sticking man coverage. So you're having to ask that man coverage skill set translate to what's going to be more zone heavy, probably a lot of quarters, but quarters in a lot of ways is off man, just kind of in a lane. So I think it could fit, but also just size, speed athlete falls in your lap here at 83. It's worth a shot. Steelers at 84. I'm going to go Cedric Van Pran. They've been looking for a center. I think Van Pran's got just enough athleticism to fit the zone blocking scheme of Arthur Smith, while we don't want to see Nate Herbig play center. He's got like 28 career snaps there. Maybe they let James Daniels play there, but you could just draft Van Pran, multi-time national champ, and I think with a mean streak to kind of fit the Steelers what they want to do, running up the middle, Najee, all that sort of stuff. He kind of feels like he matches what the tone they're trying to set is, while having enough movement skills to fit with what Arthur Smith is trying to do. To the Cleveland Browns, I'm going to go Edefon Olufosio, kind of a draft and stash linebacker. They have a couple guys who can play this year, but I like the athletic upside Olufosio presents, and some good, some bad on his Washington tape. So with the year sitting, hopefully it becomes more good than bad. Houston here at 86. I'm going to go with Malachi Corley. Diggs is there on a one-year deal, so I know they got a really nice trio here, but that's kind of perfect because Corley's not... I say this with all due respect. He's not really a receiver right now. He's just kind of a yards after the catch guy. He's just kind of an extension of the run game. So you might need a year to kind of get more functional receiver skills. And who better to learn from than Stephon Diggs? and honestly, like Tank Dell, too. Like, true technician despite his size. And then, if they don't bring back Stephon Diggs, you have Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and Malachi Corley is this insane yards after the catch threat, hopefully with some more receiver development. But at least for year one, he's your yak guy. Diggs, Collins, Tank Dell, you let them be true receivers. That's a lot of fun to think about. And we're just putting more and more weapons around C.J. Stroud. How could you not be entertained? To the Dallas Cowboys, I'm going to have Javon Baker be their Michael Gallup replacement. In a lot of ways, I could see those comparisons. Gallup just ultimately was just a big disappointment this last year. Baker, the athletic profile is not going to wow you, but just a lot of the little things are right. He knows how to play the position. The release packages are rock solid, and he goes up and wins it with some of the best of them in this receiver class. Green Bay's next up at 88. Going to give him a safety to partner up with Xavier McKinney. Cole Bishop and McKinney both have experience playing free, strong, so there could be some split safety looks. You could also rotate either one of these guys down and just keep an offense guessing who's playing over the top, who's playing in the box. So I like that a ton. Cole Bishop, really nice combine, just a little bit short on the arm size, but other than that, a lot of really nice tape to enjoy. Tampa Bay's next up at 89. They need some inter-offensive line help. Christian Mahogany, I think you just immediately plug and play there at left guard. Hopefully Robert Hainsey takes a step forward, and hopefully the same for Cody Mock going into year two at right guard. Arizona's next at 90. Would love to see this team get a big play running back, and especially considering we gave them this nice blocking power slot in Jalen McMillan. I was talking about him blocking for read option plays. Know what else makes that fun? Adding Jalen Wright's explosiveness to that. Wright plus Murray with that blocker there in the slot, that'd be a lot of fun. But I also think like Jalen Wright's a really nice compliment for James Conner. And I think here at 90, this is where I'm really feeling comfortable taking these running backs. Green Bay's next up at 91. A little bit of a project pick here. Do I want to change this on the fly? Yeah, I'm going to change on the fly. I'm going to have Tavondre Sweat be the pick. This is a gamble for sure because of the off-the-field stuff, and who knows, maybe he makes it to day 3, but I think there's a lot of upside presented with Tavondre Sweat if they can get the character right. And, a place where there's not much to do, respectfully, I say this with all due respect, send him out in the middle of Wisconsin. That might be the best thing for him if you want to stay him out of trouble, so this actually might be the perfect fit for him. So if he went to Georgia, then I think this is definitely the pick. But jokes aside, I actually think long-term he could be like a nice Kenny Clark replacement in a year's time. So him plus Devonta White could be a really fun combo for the future. Tampa Bay here at 92. I mentioned this in my defensive position rankings video. I like Trotter in coverage, and his height and weight and kind of even the arm length, very similar to Levante David. So who better for him to learn from and try to overcome his size and arm length limitations from but Levante David, who is kind of the outlier for that position. So love that. They got David back on a one-year deal. They lose Devin White, so they need a starter right away. Jeremiah Trotter Jr., learning from Levante David, that fires me up. Baltimore here at 93. This is where I'm Jermaine Burton come off the board. For full transparency, it was just the other way around. I had Burton going 79, Tez going here. I'd be fine with either one of them, but his big playability and downfield field stretching skill set is a really fun one for Baltimore because they're such a good run team, and now we just took Trey Benson too, right? Like you're like, oh man, we got to stop the run against the Ravens. So the safety start to creep down in the box, and then that's exactly when a Jermaine Burton bomb beats you over the top. So like I love adding these speedsters to this Baltimore offense because then it's just like pick your poison. Play in the box, stop the run, get beat over the top, or respect the over the top stuff and get beat 5 yards at a time because Lamar, Derrick Henry, Trey Benson, Keaton Mitchell, et cetera, et cetera. So I like that a ton. And I also like the route running. I think he could be a solid man beater. I think his underneath stuff's kind of underrated. It's got sure hands. It's just going to come down to the character. But I actually think Baltimore's a good place for him to go there. I think they could build good character out of him, hopefully. San Francisco, I would just love to see them get this multiple ball of clay with off the charts, physical frame and athleticism. It's just he got hurt, kind of lost some important reps there, and then didn't really put it together until the latter stages of this LSU season. So I feel like he's starting to get there. Just needs some more time, needs some more reps. Send him to the team with the best defensive line coach in the NFL. That's a match made in heaven for me. Then we get to Kansas City here at 95, and I'm going to go with a bit of a unicorn here in Johnny Wilson. They don't make him 6'6", 231 moving the way Wilson does. I really do think he moves well for that size. I think he's a sharp enough route runner, and with all the hype we see every offseason about Justin Ross, could you imagine just getting a better Justin Ross in Kansas City? I think that might be Johnny Wilson. Then we get to the Jags here at 96. They need that DPR specialist that they've been missing since Arden Key left. Jonah Ellis might exactly be that at the NFL level because, the weight may not play on early downs, but the spin move will absolutely play. He'll be a high-quality pass rusher from day one. It's just going to come down to what's his role. But for the Jags, they already got starters. They just need a specialist, that third down guy. Ellis checks that box. At 97, I'm going to give the Cincinnati Bengals a tight end to develop. Do I want to go Theo Johnson or Ben Sinnott? This time I'm going to go Ben Sinnott. I've been going Theo Johnson a ton. Moldable ball clay, high-end athlete with a great frame. But I'm going to go with Ben Sinnott, just a little bit of a different skill set. I think Johnson's more straight line fast. Sinnott comes with way more maneuverability and change direction skills, steering ability. So it just comes down to either one. I'd be fine with Sinnott or Theo Johnson there. Pick number 98. The Pittsburgh Steelers have not gone receiver yet. I'm going to go with Brendan Rice. And real quick before I mention it, sorry Jets fans, meant to talk about it at 72. I was going to try to have a trade here at 99 with the Rams moving out, but every time I've tried it, it just doesn't go through for whatever reason. But I was going to have the Jets take Malik Washington to get him a receiver in this mock. So if there's a Jets fan commenting, what the hell you didn't give us a pass catcher? This is going to be the timestamp that I refer to. So I would have given Malik Washington to the Jets here at 99. There's a chance he's there at 108, 111, whatever the first fourth round pick they have is. And if they get Malik Washington to play the slot, I'm pumped to see just a really nice NFL ready, does a little bit of everything, overcomes his size at a high level, that type of dude. And that Jets offense, I think he could be honestly like what Aaron Rodgers still thinks Randall Cobb is. But anyways, to round this bad boy out, the last mock draft before the 2024 NFL draft. The last pick's going to be Leonard Taylor. I think you get him back into the shape that he was in 2 years ago. Let him play 3-tech like Miami had him playing 2 years ago, and let him play that 3-tech role for the Los Angeles Rams. I think there's a lot of upside to be had there for LA. But for one last time, let me scroll through and showcase each and every pick from this 3-round mock draft one more time. Guys, let me know what you think about the draft coming up on Thursday, and what you think about this mock draft. Who went too high? Who went too low? Who's your favorite team? Did you like the haul that I gave your squad? Would love to hear those thoughts down below in the comments section. And then give me some other fun ideas. How many tackles go in the first round? How many wide receivers go in the first round? Do you think we get 6 QBs round one like I do? I think we do. So I'd love to hear your thoughts down below, and give me some bold takes. Who could be the surprise first rounder? Is there a team that trades completely out of the first round? Love to see that prediction as well. So anything you want to talk about with the NFL draft, I'm going to try to respond to as many of these comments before Thursday night as I possibly can. So leave your thoughts down below in the comments section. One more time, we're going to be posting YouTube shorts for grades on each and every pick. So literally, if you want to know what I think about each pick, it's going to be up here on the channel. So definitely subscribe or keep a tab open for the channel so that way you can get my thoughts out pretty much as soon as I see the pick is made. And then be on the lookout for Friday, that 2-round mock after round 1 comes to a conclusion. One last time, guys, thank you so much for all the support this 2024 draft cycle. It's been the biggest year on the channel. I can't thank you guys enough for getting us up and over 4,000 subscribers. Last year this time, we had just passed 2K. This year, we just passed 4, so I guess it's only right if I set my goal next year to pass 8K subs. That feels pretty lofty, but maybe we'll just do 6, get another 2 in there. But anyways, guys, thank you again so much for watching. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Tej, and I am signing off.